Okay, Kat, we've got 5 down and 6 to go, and let's keep going. Again, I really appreciate interaction, amongst yourselves, and try to get as many questions as you can on the forum. Okay, Kat, maybe fade to the background and let you guys get going.
Okay, then Howard, you can go now. I mean, present.
Okay. Okay. So the problems have any of you faced these problems before? So the knowledge is cool, but it can be boring. So let me introduce you guys to the solution I propose, which is the metaverse. So this project will be about the creation of games inside a sandbox maker, a software provided by the sandbox company to build for anyone to build the game in the way that you decide. So here is my the design of the game. So the process that I would do, it would begin with the gathering information, designing the game, and then test and redesign and launch the game. So this is a basic example and the version that I created with Python. So a simple asking questions. So this is an example of the question that derived from the book called Factfulness. So an example, a version example. So this will be how it works. And so this is about the game. So it will basically you will basically spawn with the character inside the game, and then you will be on your own to explore the world and do the quest, and then you will level up. So here is some examples of the quests that you will get. So if you walk into a range of the character, then the question will pop up, and the quest you can interact it directly by using your keyboard as an interface. So this are the example of all the knowledges we have learned, but I imagine very few of them is interesting, and as you read and you learn, you get bored of it. So what if we could bring these knowledges and incorporate it into the game and learning while exploring. So also the benefit, another benefit that you get is the certificate of completion. So after you're completing the game, you will get like a certificate. So yep, and this is a flow chart of how the game works. So you will spawn into the game, read the game instruction, do the quest, and then complete each quest and level your character up. And this is the software that we can use. So this one is provided by the sandbox companies, and the one we use is called the Sandbox Maker. And this is the one used for the one we can use to play. And this is the example of the interface of how you can make the game. And more examples. And this is what the one created with the box edit. So you can create your own avatar. Oh, sorry. And so for the metaverse technologies, there are quite a lot of technologies inside this metaverse, including artificial intelligence, blockchain, computer vision, network, edge computing, user interactivity, extended reality, and IoT and robotics. But the one we will focus on will be these 3 main technologies. So we are in the era of Web 3.0, and the interaction now we will soon use AR and VR. And for the computation, we have 5G and edge computing, and information we have a blockchain technology. And for the blockchain, some of the prerequisite you should know is the concept about hashing, mining, and mining. So hash, yeah, it can be illustrated here. And this is some more example into the how blockchain works. So if you write something, change some of the data inside the block, then it will become invalid. And you can solve that by click mine and finding the perfect nouns that by finding the perfect float zero in front, and you get the you could make your block valid, and you can do this repeatedly. So this, yep, repeatedly. And this is a more real world version of the actual blockchain. So this is where the term this term decentralized came from, because you have a many person or miners holding and using the same software. So yes. So here is a closer look into each of the block. So this makes it harder for the hackers or someone who would like to steal and change the data in the blockchain, because you need to change not just your own block but also the other. And now into the VR and AR technologies. So we can see that China is on the leading in the race here, followed by USA and Western Europe. And here is some examples of the technologies that we are at the moment. The green one is from now 0 to 1 years, and yeah, and the rest is quite far away, but we'll soon reach there. And these are the adoption of technologies, of AR technologies. We have seen that Instagram has a lot of AR lens, so as Snapchat and a lot of others. And these are the how AR can penetrate into the industry. In some more examples, and these are about the sports. And so for the blockchain, you will need something called MetaMask, which is a type of wallet that is very common among the blockchain network. So for this game, it will require a token called Matic if you would like to buy the NFT or things from the sandbox game. And the land in the sandbox, it has quite a significant, because when creating the game, you will need the land to host the game, and you could use the land to play the game and stake for the sand tokens or rent the land to the game designers. But it comes with a greater cost, because the land is sold in the open sea, and not just and the price is quite expensive if you would like one. Yeah, these are some of the relationships between the players and landowners and game creators inside the sandbox game. And for the AR and VR technologies, for AR, the different things about AR and VR is that VR is on mobile, and VR cannot be on a mobile. And this gives a better example of it. And this one is augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. And these are the examples of haptic devices. Yeah, similar to the one Nontagon mentioned in his presentation. So in the future metaverse, you will need this kind of devices to directly pass the information from users and sensory into the computer and make the experience more inclusive. And so the problem with the standalone VR is that there are latency, bandwidth, and inconsistency. Before we have before the VR is attached to a wire and connect to the PC, so which have great computing power. So there's no problem with that. But once it becomes a standalone with a chip embedded inside, this problem arises. And here are some of the key developments, or the key drivers that drive the trend of the metaverse. We can see there's a lot of price decline of the headsets during our period, and also there's a lot of something like this. And this graph illustrates the decrease in price over time of the Oculus Rift, Oculus product offered by Meta or Facebook. And these are some of the upcoming VR that will soon be released in this year or next year. So there are quite a lot of companies that are playing in this field, including HTC, Lynx, Apple, Oculus, Magic Leap, and PlayStation. And soon, according to this source, they predict that soon the shipment of VR will exceed the shipment of console. And now we're moving to our last technology, which is edge computing. And this technology will soon become the core that will drive the trend of the metaverse. So edge compute basically computes, stores, and transmit data closer to the end users. And this can significantly reduce the latency of the game. And we will have multi-access edge computing, basically offloading to an edge server. So yeah, but in the future there'll be the problem here, because as autonomous vehicle become more as we go into the era of autonomous vehicle, then these vehicles will also need to use a high speed network, and the priority will be given to this over the less important or the metaverse of VR game. Therefore, this could pose a problem to the speed of the game. And for the long-term metaverse, we imagine some kind of brain-computer interface, which is passing the we command it directly from our brain into the metaverse code. And here is the summary of the concerns over the metaverse. There are oligopolistic market, which is basically a monopoly over this market due to a very high entry barrier, high barriers to entry. High barriers to entry because it requires a lot of research and development. So the market is quite dominated by a few companies, including Facebook, Google, and stuff. And there are also concerns about the security and privacy, because we will become more immersive into this board, and therefore there are more concerns about security and privacy that need to be prevented, because and networking, I've mentioned before about the competing for different devices competing for bandwidth. And lastly is about the content creation, that it shouldn't be limited to professional designers to create the content. And the sandbox software has proved kind of solve this, because it allows anyone to just learn some basic knowledges, and they could create their own avatar and their own gig. And this would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Is there someone who want to ask question?
If I may interject, I think okay, the normal narrative is, you know, once you get the interest of the audience, you lay out the area of technology that's sort of like the context, right? And maybe you narrow it down to what it is you want to do, or what particular combination of technology subset leads you to some kind of innovation. I think what you were doing is kind of like, my impression is it's kind of a little bit of the opposite process. You know, you have you start with, I think, the presentation anyway, start with something fairly specific, and then you sort of like broaden out to the general survey of the technology. I'm not quite sure of what this is delivering. Maybe your final study is some sort of like a broad survey. That would be a valid and a meaningful exercise, you know. But again, you're not teaching the emerging technology class, so your job is not to survey all this, if I may say, you know, aimlessly. You know, these are the new thing, these are the thing with China people. China is ahead in this game, and this VR, we are behind all this. These are sort of like general narrative, unless that's what you want to do. Something like, you know, survey of, I don't know, VR related technologies in 2022 or something like that. Okay, so even though Basai is not really about getting you to create a product that would, you know, be a big hit in the market, but there has to be some kind of a narrowing down of aims, of objectives, of some kind of solution, right? There has to be something that focus. The technology is all very interesting, and it's good to understand where everything is, but that in a sense is sort of like my job. Your job is to actually focus this down to yeah, exactly. So your job is to get it down to something similar to what you were proposing in the very beginning, you know, which is to make learning interesting or something like that. And so I'm not quite sure how you know, this really wide sweep at the end really serves that. Okay, so be very careful in your final presentation. It's again, remember I told you that with PowerPoint you already have that luxury, right? Audience can't really go anywhere. They sort of like have to look at your thing page by page. Now, I did say, you know, send your presentation ahead of time so they can flip back and forth. But normally, most of the time when you make a presentation with PowerPoint, you already control the narrative. So what you want to be doing, it should be like something like, okay, this is the broad setup, and then you narrow it down to your solution, right? As opposed to start with something, a solution, and they just go what everybody else is doing at the end. It should sort of like flip, I think, the architecture a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you've done a lot of study, you know, trying to do a few things, write some Python code and look into blockchain. So there's a lot of things you've done, but you certainly have to weave things together, right? Because it's very important. A presentation is not to tell me what you've done. Okay, and a lot of time, let's say I've spent like whole bunch of time doing this part, and I spend 5 minutes doing this part. But for the narrative, for the presentation, for convincing the audience of the key technology or whatever, it turns out that this is the main part. Okay, even if I spend like months on this and I spend 5 minutes on this, That's not the proportion you should go for. The proportion of presentation should be dictated by the narrative. Okay, think of making a story. Okay, now you're not making fiction. You're making a real non-fiction presentation, but there is a narrative there. There's a there's a problem. There's a pain point. There's emerging technology. There's technology that's been waiting for breakthrough, and last year somebody came up with a breakthrough, and now all we need is just reorganizing the supply chain, and in 5 years time we'll see this in common, that sort of thing. So you need to do this kind of weaving. It's something that you're not used to doing. And if I make a general comment, is that I think you coming fresh out of high school, you were probably asked to do a lot of things like a book report, which is where you latch onto a particular paper or book, and then you just relate that. Well, you have to realize that the book or the paper that you read has done the synthesis. In fact, they did all this funneling, this many area, blah, 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 down to the, so all you're doing is repeating that narrative, okay? So when you're doing this kind of like a book reporting, it's like a narrative. So that's why I want you to do your own survey, start to form your idea, you create your own narrative. Now, that narrative may depend 80% on one paper, okay? But certainly, I'm not interested in having you explaining to me this paper, okay? So even if you're basing the majority of your work on just one paper, or there's a context around it. There's a innovation. There's a the framework that I taught you in class about how do you gauge the readiness of technology. Those can be discussed, okay? But definitely it's not a book report. It's not you go away for a summer, read a book, and come and tell your friends. That's not it. So and this is a skill that's, to be fair, it's not something that you have necessarily developed, or that I necessarily can expect out of you. But this is one of those things, presentation skill, communication. Okay, presentation skill is not all about on-screen personality and flashy graphics, but it's certainly about getting the audience to focus on the key message that you want to deliver, right? And controlling that narrative and making it interesting, okay, and informative. Okay, it's not fiction. It's not fiction. So you're not mis-selling. You're not trying to pull a quick one over the audience. You're actually telling the truth, right? It's truth-based. But how does it unfold? How the story can be very, very exciting, just as if it were a story. Okay, so having a story to your solid, scientifically grounded piece of technology is not just flashy marketing. It's very important. It's very important. Okay, so this kind of narrative, this kind of communication is extremely important. Okay, but again, this is something that's just thrown at you. Hopefully, the way we design Basai, I think like year 2 would be focused on the tool building. Learning things about additional things like accounting or finance or raising capitals, presentation, pitching, and that sort of thing. So that will come. That will come. But you have to realize that's the sort of thing I want you to anticipate as you go on to your second, third, fourth year, certainly. Okay, Kap. So that's sort of like a general comment I wanted to interject. But let's carry this along. Okay, Kap.
Okay, Kap. Then Shanakrit, you can listen now.
Okay, so hello everyone. My project is about Bangkok traffic simulation. So yeah, let's first start off with some description about the project. Of course, when talking about transportation in Bangkok, one of the things that need to be mentioned is definitely traffic. Everyone know about traffic in Bangkok, but why can't we solve it? The problem is from both environment and human behavior. In other cities, the problem was solved by the usage of smart AI traffic system, but of course, the system isn't one size fit all. Environment can be changed, but human behavior across the world will have their own uniqueness and have the and could be impact on how the system will need to be created. The project, this project can be used as an insight gainer for Thai citizen on street behavior, or even it can be used to create AI traffic camera that's suitable and efficient for Thai people. Okay, so talking about general idea, let's see some statistic on Bangkok traffic. According to TomTom, Bangkok in 2021 have 31% congestion level. A bit more explanation on what 31 is. The 31% congestion level mean that on average, travel time were 31% longer during the baseline non-congestion condition. This means that 30-minute trip driven in free flow condition will take 9 minutes longer when the congestion is at 31%. And also in 2019, 90 hours are lost from just waiting in traffic. That's more than 3 days lost just sitting in line. So here's some interesting insight from this graph. First, as you can see, there's a pattern on every day. With a weekday congestion peak around 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And second, from this pattern, it's happened over years and years. Which what this means is the traffic has happened as a routine, and if we figure out what caused it, we can solve the traffic. But now, how can we do it? So we can gather data by using computer vision and use it to create a simulation to gather up the insight of what causes traffic. So why is the next question? Why the simulation? So we create simulations to first for safety, sometimes too dangerous to test in real life environment. Just thinking of all the possibility for a person to spend counting all the cars and bike all day in Bangkok. Second is cost efficient. Setting up real life environment with many cameras can be time consuming and costly. Creating synthetic data is more useful to train AI and is often more cost effective. And lastly, it's fast. With a simulation, it's usually easy to vary environmental conditions that can be studied. Simulation can also speed up the study behavior over a long period of time or slow down to study the behavior more closely. As such, simulation fit into an iterative, agile approach where you can achieve fast results and proceed incrementally. Now, we talk about the way we can get started with the initial data, computer vision. To explain a bit on what it is, computer vision in a nutshell is trying to extract meaningful information from image and video using computer in an automated way. This way we can leverage cameras and computer to come together and do stuff that would otherwise require a person or team to work on manually. Although this may be possible at times, there are many times where having a human present would be impractical. So the goal of our computer vision is to identify type of car, vehicle, and pedestrian. To create a variable for it. Now, so the type of computer vision we need in this project is panoptic segmentation, because rather than just detecting box around the object, with an instance of segmentation, you can estimate where the objects are in the box. And to achieve this, we can use the TensorFlow to train up the model. Next, we can use the data gathered from the computer vision to create a simulation. This for visualization purpose and also create each case scenario like mentioned in the impact sections. And lastly, for the next step in this project, A simple prototype can be created by first import the traffic data from the open source. Then we can try simple computer vision tools such as teachable machine or other simple Python code. And we can use data to create our simulation by using gaming library in Python, such as Pygame or PyOpenGL. Lastly, we can use use what we create to prepare for what insight we want. And then we can scale up the project, like contacting other police to partner with them in developing a faster way to solve the traffic. And that's my project. Thank you. So any question you want to ask?
Yes, I have one. So as you mentioned that the simulation can help the traffic in Thailand, but my question is that comparing it to the Google Maps, where it's kind of have some similar features, like telling where the traffic is congestion, like it solves the pain points. How is the solutions differentiate itself from Google Maps?
So basically what Google Map is, they gather up the real-time data and see what kind of like they use like a mobile tracking. So the insight they got is just a location and number of people and the direction they walk. But instead we need to figure out what the origin, like the pattern that occur every day was. And that's and Google Map does not solve all of it. We might need to see like the direction or the obstacle that the person or the car need to face, and how like pattern of like each other, like how the person gonna affect like the car, like the like on this crosswalk, car need to curve around because there's like kind of like there are often a routine of person walk through this crosswalk, so we can adjust all the traffic light or even create new innovation to solve this problem.
Thank you. It was very interesting to hear that.
Thank you. Anyone have more questions? If not, thank you everyone for listening.
Okay, if you guys have no question, then we can move to the next skill. Piranat, we can present now.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So, good morning. I'm going to present a project about emerging technology in one of the aging society problems. So first of all, let's begin with today's situation. According to the UN World Population Prospect, it states that in the next 30 years, the percentage of world population over 65 years old will be double, and that is almost 20% of the world population. And the pain point of those people is they have a bad health, and so they are unable to go outside of their house to hang out with the community and doing any activity as they wish. At this point, some of you might wonder, how does this matter? Well, the researchers point that 43% of those seniors feel lonely, and half of them have a greater risk of death because of depression caused by feeling left out by society and lacking of workout. And I found that those people usually doing something to make them feel better by calling their friend, watching TV, and having a pet, but does that not really fulfill what they really need? So I was thinking about what technology can be applied to satisfy those needs. And I came up with the idea to use metaverse to simulate a virtual world to keep them feeling like they are still being a part of the community. By using a VR headset, haptic glove, and motion tracking device, allow users to connect themselves with the internet and turn them to avatars and enter the metaverse, which let them be able to roam through a virtual world with friends instead of living alone at home. How the gameplay gonna look like? Well, let's say it's like a Minecraft version, but in the metaverse version. Tourist State Mall is a multiplayer world where players can do anything they want, but users have to control the game by using eyesight, fidgeting fingers, and body movement. For the technologies that are used for bringing this idea to reality, not only the hardware device from user part, but in order to simulate a realistic virtual world that will satisfy elders, many cutting-edge technology should be applied, including artificial intelligence, cloud computing, advanced graphic engine, low latency network, and big data. For the benefit, I firmly believe that this metaverse concept could keep elders stay mentally sharp, avoid depression, and help them to keep in touch with their friends and society. To summarize, in order to solve loneliness in elders, we could use metaverse concept to connect elders to the community. In the virtual world, they are allowed to roam through a fantasy environment, do activities that they cannot do in reality, and have more interactive conversation with other players. Thank you,ครับ. And do anyone have any question?
Well, I have a question on the big data. You mentioned that big data is one of the components that is used to create a virtual world for elders. So why is big data important?
Oh, yes. First of all, thank you for the question. And so since the virtual world environment should be designed to satisfy the user preference, that's why we have to collect user data and feedback to enhance gameplay system. And with that reason, we must have a storage system that can handle a massive amount of data and structure it neatly. And that is when the big data will take the place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you have no question, then National, you can present next when you're ready.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so good morning, my friends. Today I'm going to be presenting about the genetic modifying organism based on the topic on will genetic modifying organism benefits or make an impact to the mankind. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to be mentioning about the three main problems that the farmers are facing. So firstly, it is about the pest insect that can have adverse and damaging impacts on agricultural production and market access, the natural environment and our lifestyle. And next is about the low income due to the law of supply demand. The oversupply causes the price of the crops to decrease. And lastly, about the diseases, as the crop can be infected by the disease. So what exactly is GMOs? It is the short form is GMOs, but it is coming from the genetically modified organisms. It is a living organism whose genetic material has been artificially manipulated in a laboratory through genetic engineering. So this creates combination of plants, animal, bacteria, and virus genes that do not occur in natural or through traditional crossbreeding methods. GM foods are foods derived from organisms whose genetic material DNA has been modified in a way that does not occur naturally. Example through the introduction of gene from a different organism. So what are the steps that GMO technology must go through? The first step is identifying the genetic information or gene that gives an organism, plant, animal, or microorganism a desired trait. This creates combination of plant, animal, bacteria, and virus genes to produce GMO plant. Firstly, scientists have to identify what traits they want that plant to have, such as resistance to drought, herbicides, or insects. Then they find an organism that already has that trait with its genes. And the second step is copying that information from the organism that has the trait. After scientists find the gene with the desired trait, they copy that gene. For example, the BT corn, they copy the gene in BT that would provide the insect-resistant traits. For the third steps, they inserting that information into the DNA of another organism. And lastly, they grow the new organism. So how can GMO solve the mentioned pain point? So firstly is about the benefits of genetic modifying crops. The crops are resistant to pest insect. GMOs may have fewer pesticides. Many GMO crops have been altered to be less vulnerable to insects and other pests. So let's take BT corn for an example. The BT corn consists of Bacillus thuringiensis, a natural occurring soil bacteria. This gene causes the corn to produce protein that kills many pests and insects, helping to protect corn from damage. However, this bacteria is completely harmless to the human, so it is totally safe for us. Next is about, I have studied a case study. It is about the banana in Africa, the GMO banana. So bacterial wilt is one of the most lethal banana disease and nearly wiped out the country's highly prized East Africa highland varieties. So in this research, the National Agriculture Research Organization and its partners are currently using genetic engineering to breed disease-resistant banana varieties in a bid to protect the population of popular food. disease resistance was achieved by transferring two resistant genes from sweet pepper to banana, both singly and as stacked traits. These genes have provided disease resistance. Next, I'm going to be mentioned about the law of demand and supply. As I mentioned earlier in the pain points about the cost problems that the farmers are facing. So this is the supply demand supply graph. As you can see that supply shifted to the right causes the demand to decrease. When farmers are in the no situation, the only way farmer can increase their income is to increase the production. But increase in production results in an even greater supply loss, which drives price down even further, which leads to even greater financial losses. So GMO crops are the answers to these problems. As they are bred to grow efficiently, this means that the farmers can produce the same amount of food using less land, less water, and fewer pesticides than conventional crops. Because they can save on resources, food producers can also charge lower price for GMO foods. Yeah. So it also have the drawbacks of genetic modifying crops. Firstly is the problems of gene flow. When GMO crops are bred with non-GMO crops, it causes the unwanted plant to develop an unwanted characteristics. And next is about allergy problems. Because GMO crops may cause allergic reaction because it contains the DNA from other organisms. It's possible that the new DNA can trigger allergies in people who would normally be allergic to the food. According to the National Library of Medicine, GM foods indicate that they may cause some common toxic effects such as hepatic, pancreatic, and renal and reproductive effects, and may alter the hematological, biochemical, and immunological parameters. Well, that's it for my presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
I wonder how the future of GMO would be like. Do you have any question? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think it might be good that by combining the genes might causes, it's like it can be immune to insects and to the disease, but also by mixing many genes, it might causes a problems like imbalance in ecology. And also I heard one study, I tried to find it but I couldn't find it. It is about when farmers are growing crops, they have to grow different kinds of crops, because if one are infected, the rest will be infected. But with this technology, all the crops will be immune to it's like it will have the same immunity, but if one infected and the rest will be infected and die off. So it is better to have the wide variety of crops within one area.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, this is one area where you can apply the resilience principle of sufficiency economy philosophy to the analysis. Okay, very good. Okay, we're down to 2.
Okay, I think that is all for today.
Okay. Now, I asked you guys to send the presentation, but you can certainly make revision based on comments and based on give it a bit more time. What's going to happen is next week you have the exam, and then you have about a week to wrap up everything, I think. So the week after is when you hand over. I send the naming convention, right, in the line group. So you put your last name, your first name, and the final date, and that could be the date you hand in or the date you finish it. You finish early, right? And just project. Now, also with a YouTube video again. There's a naming convention, so that way I can search for your thing to grade and so forth. No problem. Peanut has a few things to say. We can finish early today, unless you want to ask for specific coaching about how individual. I mean, I can before we do that. Let me just. I didn't write quite specific comment to all of you, but again, these are generic, I guess, comments. Let me just share the screen. Yes. Right. So don't jump in. Okay. Again, 12-minute presentation. Allow yourself at least 2 minutes to set up. Be clear what you do. Okay. Be clear what you do personally. Are you talking about you personally, your whole team, some scientists that you read about or whatever? Okay. So in other words, don't forget about how your role in this space. Okay. And you can reference. You can recall, remember I talked about the four types, right? Of bonsai grass, right? Right? So the technology, innovator, tech entrepreneur, right? Okay. Social transformer, and educated consumer. Yeah. So, and this is who you are in general as a graduate of bonsai. But you can also say with respect to this particular technology, you know, for example, I think Panpicha wants to get into here, right? Panpicha wants to get to here, whereas maybe Nontagon already see this technology and want to be the entrepreneur, right? And so forth. Again, avoid the book report narrative. Okay, create your own narrative. Even if you are basing 90% of your project on one piece of work. Okay, you can. Okay, I'm not saying you should. Okay, because I do say that the next comment is make sure it's a proper literature survey, right? Even though it's, you know, this approach is a killer approach, you don't want to just show one paper. Okay, even if in that one paper they have to present it within the context of other people. In a lot of you try to give a little bit of reference, like the journal, for example. I can think of maybe Kushi, I think, give just the name of the journal. No, go ahead and give the name to the author and make the link even. Okay. For example, I think Panpicha gave a URL link to the paper, but I would do one better. I would do this. Okay. I would do something like this. Hold on. Okay. So this is last name, first, year, right? Title, journal, volume, page. Okay, and then if you have, right? Why not? Why not? Why not? Okay. So the reason it's good idea to print this out, you know why it's good idea to print it out? Because if, for example, you write something that's in the PowerPoint and you send the PowerPoint, you can double click, it's a link. But if you get to read it somewhere, okay, say somebody just show you a page, okay, at least you can type that in. It's a little bit tedious, right? So it could be like a journal of bioinformatics.com/papers/ say something like, 2020, okay, volume 3, paper 3, something like that, doesn't matter, okay. So if you give this, then it's easier to share some, okay. Now I expect all this, obviously, okay, in the report, in the final report, okay. I don't know if you really need a template for the final report, but it's sort of like something you should be able to manage on your own. But let me know if you're having a tough time. Okay. Again, final comment. It's not showing the audience what you've done. You have to think about what you want to say. Okay, and this is very important. And I give you a sort of like an analogy. You guys know nowadays that marketing is based on trailer, right? So a lot of these big budget movies, superheroes or whatnot, sometimes they would literally shoot some shots that they know is going to look exciting on a trailer. Okay, they do that. They literally do that, trailer engineering. But it doesn't add anything to the story, okay? And that's why a lot of time, there are occasions when you see this trailer, wow, it looks like a good movie, you go watch it and it does nothing, okay? So this concept, so this is the last thing I want to leave with you. This is idea of the notion. Non-fiction, i.e. technology report, sales, project pitching, all kind of things, etc. Okay, or even some sort of like a seminar, talk, has narrative, or should have. Should be organized around some kind of, okay. So in other words, story is not just for fiction. Okay, and just because you're telling a story, that doesn't mean you're fictionalizing. No, it's all truth, it's all science, it's all real story. Okay. So let me just save that. I'll send it in the line group, and just to make sure on the record, let me just add that. Okay. Let me add this thing to your for the final presentation. Okay, so this is your thing, right? So if I were to send something today, it would be something like this. Okay, now let's make it a little bit short. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, so basically you send 3 files. One is a PowerPoint, one is a doc, and just to be on the safe side. By the way, this is good practice. Whenever I communicate project, I write things in doc, and if I want the receiver to be able to work from this document, I send them the doc. If I want them to just read it, it's PDF. Okay, so in your case, say you make a print paper, you convert it to PDF, and you send me both. Okay, let's do this. and this here. Okay, so this would be the YouTube title. Okay. Video. Okay, now that's it. So let me well, not sign off, but I'm going to let Peanut talk to you a little bit about how the exam will be, and that should be today, and I'll let you guys leave early if you like. It's okay.
Okay ครับ thank you first I want to ask อาจารย์ครับ about peer evaluation. What is the due date to that the student can send?
Well, send it this afternoon. I mean, you don't want to sit on it too long. Okay. In fact, you should already have that. I always grade students and say they move along. Okay. So, you know, you should have that. But what you might like to do, you might like to compose more feedback. Okay. So remember I told you about that bonus thing. So maybe you haven't given the feedback in class here, but you can add some comments. Okay, you can add some comment, and maybe you can look at the presentation, right? Because everybody has everybody else's presentation, right? So you can even make a comment on your friends. What we are going to do, we're going to compile the comments and share back to the presenter. Okay. So let's say maybe 5 o'clock today be good. 5 o'clock is good. Okay. So just to be safe, not send them I guess the list. Make sure that everybody's on the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to be fail safe that you're actually scoring the right person. So send the list again with the order of the presenter, right? First column, second column, third column, and add the column for comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Then okay.
I have a question regarding the format of presentation. Since I do it on Prezi.com, it's already converted into the PDF file. Is it okay?
I think PDF file should be okay. You can submit either PowerPoint or PDF file.
Thank you ครับ
Okay.